So June was a weird month for me. Pride was great, except for the injury. I broke my phone, and then I got an opportunity to join a presidential campaign, which means I would have to move to Iowa. So I did what is only natural for a queer book lover during a big move during Pride Month. I read as many LGBTQ plus books as I possibly could and tried to get rid of as many books as I could before moving across the country. I managed to read 16 books across 4 different genres in June: children's literature, comics, young adult fiction, and nonfiction. Let's start with children's literature. Snowfall Surprised by Jane B. Mason and Sarah Hines Stephen was a super cute story from the Candy Apple imprint. It is about Savannah, a very serious snowboarder, whose parents take her and her 2 best friends to the mountain for her birthday. Everything is great as she teaches her friends about the wonderful world of winter sports, until she breaks her leg. It's cute and kind of depressing as Savannah begins to feel abandoned by her friends who try to continue to enjoy the trip with her, even though she is trapped by the circumstances of a broken leg. I'm giving it 3 stars because it really was an okay book. The next book I read was also by Jane B. Mason and Sarah Hines Stephen. It is also a Candy Apple imprint. Rumor has it is about 6th grade drama. Audrey is intrigued by the new girl and wants to be her friend, but the only way she can think to get to know this new girl is by starting a slam book, an anonymous-ish notebook where people can answer silly questions or write their opinions of other classmates. Truly a plan for making friends that is so bad that I seriously doubt anyone would ever seriously pursue it. It is, however, a great backdrop for reading about the shenanigans of 6th graders, and knowing that the book is marketed to younger kids to teach them to not be like that and to just use their words really gave me hope. I'm also giving this book 3 stars. And those are the only children's books I read in June. Our next genre is comics, one of my favorites, even though I don't get around to reading them very consistently. However, I did make time to read Lumberjanes Volume 7, A Bird's Eye View. For those unfamiliar with the series, Lumberjanes is about a group of 5 campers, or Lumberjane Scouts, who attend Miss Quinzilla Thrisquin's Pettiquill's Thistle Crumpet's camp for hardcore lady types. The Lumberjane Scouts go on a variety of supernatural adventures where they have to rely on their wits, their scouting skills, and the power of female friendship. In this volume, every single Lumberjane is friendly as the High Council is coming to camp, and the lovable yet anxious camp counselor Jen is determined to make everything perfect. Even though there is a slight infestation of magical kittens from the boys' camp, and there is a slight possibility that the High Council gets kidnapped by a giant bird-like creature, she's still gonna make it perfect. I loved this volume of Lumberjanes. It was fun, queer, and the magical kittens completely stole the show. I'm giving Volume 7 of Lumberjanes 5 stars. For a different mood in comics, because every art form has range, I also read Charlotte Bronte Before Jane Eyre by Glynis Fox. This biographical comic shows the hardship of Charlotte Bronte's life and how that shaped her imagination and creativity, as well as the lives of her siblings. I really loved reading Jane Eyre and learning more about Charlotte Bronte and how she pulled from her own life when she created. It was all super interesting. We received this book as an ARC, and it has since been released to the public. It was a good read, perfect for the classic literature lover, and I'm giving it 4 stars. The adult fiction section is once again going to be the majority of the video. I have a brand. It's my favorite genre, so this is where I spend most of my reading time. I read 7 books in this genre, and because June is Pride Month, they also are all books featuring LGBTQ plus characters. Let's start with one of the gay books. One Man Guy by Michael Barakiva. One Man Guy is about Alec, an Armenian-American kid whose parents sent him to summer school, so he will be eligible for advanced classes next year. Alec finds this entire plot to be terrible and hellish because his grades were fine. He did not need to go to summer school at all. Then he meets Ethan in summer school, who is confident and cool, and Alec wants to be Ethan's friend, and very quickly it becomes clear that Ethan wants to be more than friends, and Alec might be interested in that, even though he has never really considered what life in a relationship could look like, much less what life in a relationship with a guy could look like. Honestly, I didn't like this book that much. Everything just felt really rushed and condensed. I found out while I was writing out a script for this video that the book has a sequel, and I highly doubt that I will be reading it. The book and the romance was just way too fast-paced for me, and the characters lacked complexity. But I did learn a lot about the Armenian genocide, like the fact that there was an Armenian genocide. So that's good to know. I'm giving this book 3 stars. Now for a book on sex and gender, None of the Above by I.W. Gregorio is, I think, the first fiction book I have ever read about someone who's intersex. So Kristen Latimer is a champion runner, homecoming queen, and in high school she discovers that she is intersex, and then someone tells the entire school. This book is really about her coming to terms with being intersex. Her narrative often pauses as she learns more as to make the story informative for the reader. This book really centers around gender and what it means to be a woman. I have no idea if this book was good representation. I'm not intersex to my knowledge, and I haven't read enough intersex stories to know if this one was good for the community, but I think it was an okay story though, and I would love to hear what intersex people thought of the book. I'm giving the book 4 stars. So now is the perfect time to talk about one of the best books I have read in my entire life that I almost left out of this video. I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver. So when Ben DeBecker comes out to their parents as non-binary, they are kicked out of the house. Ben in this emergency moves in with their estranged older sister Hannah and her husband Thomas. Ben has never met Thomas. That's how estranged Hannah is. Ben has to transfer schools halfway through his senior year and decides that they are going to try to go unnoticed. They are only out to their parents, Hannah, Thomas, and their therapist. And their internet best friend / non-binary mentor who's super cool. Ben tries to stay invisible in school, but that doesn't really work out because of Nathan. Nathan is an amazingly cool and charismatic young man who decides to take Ben under his wing and be their friend. The two of them start to get to know each other and develop a really strong bond, and then that friendship slowly turns into something else. I love this book. I love it deeply and wholeheartedly. It starts with a tragedy and then slowly shows someone building their new life that is happier and healthier and encourages people to reach out for help. Professional help or help from their social networks. It is a beautiful and well-written story. I Wish You All the Best is a 5-star book. It's time for a book that is exclusively about gender though, Symptoms of Being Human by Jeff Garvin. The story centers around Riley, who is gender fluid, loves punk rock, and is starting a new school, and is the child of a prominent conservative politician who does a lot of things to put on a teenager. Riley, on the advice of their therapist, starts an anonymous blog to talk about what it is like to be a gender fluid teenager. It becomes a lifeline where Riley can really show who they are, which is important since they aren't in the best position to come out. Their blog goes viral and ends up helping a lot of people and pissing some people off. And an unnamed commenter figures out Riley's identity and threatens to reveal it. I thought this was a great book. I love that it really showed how the internet, particularly the ability to be anonymous on the internet, has helped communities survive and thrive, even though some people use anonymity as a weapon. And I really admired how Jeff Garvin never reveals the gender Riley was assigned at birth, because what gender they are expected to perform is not actually important in any way to the story, since Riley presents as androgynous all the time to avoid being outed as gender fluid. I'm giving the book 4 stars. I think now is a good time to talk about a love story and people of color, because I'm pretty sure they haven't been centered this whole video. I read It's Not Like It's a Secret by Misa Segura. So this book is about Sana, who starts out with a lot of secrets, like how it bothers her that her friends in Wisconsin don't invite her to things and treat her like an outsider, and how she's pretty sure her dad is having an affair, and that she is very sure she likes girls. And Sana is excited to restart her life when her family moves from Wisconsin to California. She's happy to be able to fit in as she finds a new group of friends and to no longer be the only Asian kid in school. Tries things she never thought she could try, like distance running, sneaking out, spying on her dad, and dating a very cute girl named Jamie Ramirez. There are a few problems though, like all of Sana's new Asian friends who totally get her don't really like or trust any of Jamie's friends, and Jamie's friends do not want to hang out with Sana. And her father's affair is becoming increasingly more obvious as time passes. It's a really complex book about love, relationships, growing up with immigrant parents, class, and race. The book was a pretty sweet coming out of age story and coming out story, and I genuinely enjoyed it. I'm giving this book 4 stars. I also read The Princess and the Fangirl by Ashley Poston. This modern fandom retelling of The Prince and the Pauper takes place in the Geekerella universe. The story takes place entirely at ExcelsiCon, a giant convention originally started to celebrate the Starfield franchise. And Jessica Stone is an amazing actress who plays Princess Amara in the new Starfield movies, and is definitely over the franchise. And it wouldn't hurt if she could also leave the criticism of the Starfield fandom behind. Fandoms can be intense, especially when they decide that they don't like you. So Imogen Lovelace is a fangirl who wants to stop her favorite character, Princess Amara, from getting killed off. They meet after a case of mistaken identity, and they don't exactly get along. They trade places after the script for the next Starfield movie leaks, as Jessica tries to clear her name and find the person who is leaking the script. Both girls learn and grow from experiencing the other side of this extremely intense fandom at ExcelsiCon. They also discover a few new romantic opportunities. Ashley Poston has written yet another feel-good and adorable fairy tale with The Princess and the Fangirl, and I can't wait to see what she does next. I'm giving The Princess and the Fangirl 4 stars. The last young adult fiction book I read in June was We Are Okay by Nina LeCoeur. Marin moved from California to New York for college. She left home with her wallet, her phone, and a picture of her mother. No other belongings, and when her best friend Mabel visits over winter break, it forces Marin to confront everything she left behind in California. She's running from her past, and because of that, a lot of the story takes place over flashbacks as we learn what it is she's running from. This is a story about loneliness more than anything else. It's a story about being alone and feeling untethered from the world. It also features some of a romantic relationship between Marin and Mabel that mostly took place in the past and in flashbacks. This book is lonely, sad, gay, and honest. It also somehow is a good holiday read and good summer beach read story at the same time, which is beautiful and brilliant, and I think I love it for that. I'm giving We Are Okay 4 stars. Our last genre in the video is nonfiction. So the first thing I read was StoryCorps Outloud, hosted by Ari Shapiro. It's technically a radio production created by NPR, but I had to borrow it from my library as an audiobook, so I am counting it as an audiobook. Quote what the creator said about this: StoryCorps Out Loud is a multi-year initiative dedicated to recording and preserving LGBTQ stories across America. Out Loud honors the stories of those who lived before the 1969 Stonewall uprisings, celebrates the lives of LGBTQ youth, and amplifies the voices of those most often excluded from the historical record. I found it really enjoyable as there aren't a lot of resources available to learn about queer history. I found the stories to be beautiful, and I loved learning about my own community in such a thoughtful and organized way. I'm giving StoryCorps Out Loud 5 stars. And if you're looking for a book that will change your life, I humbly submit for your consideration Sister Outsider, Essays and Speeches by Audre Lorde. It is not often that I read a book and know that I will be returning to it one day, but I can practically guarantee that I will reread this book. I borrowed it from the library, but I think I'm going to buy a copy of the book next time I'm at my local bookstore. Audre Lorde described herself as a Black lesbian mother warrior poet. Her work changed how I think in a really fundamental way, and I have a feeling that returning to it will give me clarity and purpose in a way that few things have. Stories about raising your children to traveling in Russia, everything that Audre Lorde writes offers a perspective that is sorely needed. I'm giving Sister Outsider 5 stars. 2019 was really the year that I committed myself to figuring out gender, because I've been procrastinating and putting it off because gender is confusing. I have known the entire year that I am committed to fighting for trans rights. So I read You're in the Wrong Bathroom and 20 Other Myths and Misconceptions About Transgender and Gender Nonconforming People by Laura Erickson Schroth and Laura A. Jacobs. I think this is a really great book to read if you want to start learning more about trans people. It is hard to find a good introduction to transness, but I think this was solid. The book is well written, and the way that things are broken up is really helpful for getting the ideas across. It also allows the authors to get really specific on certain issues when they are dispelling myths. The book incorporates some outdated terminology while describing the myths and misconceptions that you may have heard, but it does so in a way that explains why the information you previously received isn't accurate and sometimes hurtful, and offers more up-to-date terms for you to use. Giving the book 4 stars. And the very last book I read in the month of June is Good Morning, Good Night, Little Pep Talks for You and Me by Lin-Manuel Miranda. I read this book multiple times in June. It is a collection of various tweets from Lin-Manuel Miranda. They are encouragements, greetings, wishes for himself and all of us. And it's just nice to know that someone is in your corner and is wishing you the best, even if you've never met them. I love this book. I love this book so much that my friend Nirali had a mug with one of his tweets sent to me. It is amazing and my favorite mug. I also recommend getting the audiobook for this one because who wouldn't want to hear Lin-Manuel Miranda say that you're doing a good job and that your best is enough, and I'm proud of you. I'm giving it 5 stars. Thanks so much everyone for watching my June reading wrap up. You're all amazing. If you want to see more from me, you can subscribe, watch another video of mine, or support me on Patreon. And hey, I love you.